Hey everybody! Welcome to Nerds with Alcohol. I'm Chris,
I'm Russ.
and this is episode 214.
214, back in the virtual nerd basement. Ladies and gentlemen, um, welcome to the people in the chat. Nice
Yep.
to see you. We got five
Yep.
people in there just to start. That's pretty good.
ACD.
Um, wow. Welcome. 2020 is definitely shaping up.
2020.
2021. It's definitely shaping up. Let's not have a repeated 2020. I saw a meme that said, like, what day is today? It's like, and then it was rattled off like, it's February of 2030 or something like that.
A buddy of mine.
The year looks like.
Yeah, a buddy of mine said, "Welcome to," or today is December 63rd,
63rd,
2020.
yeah. 2020. So today actually, happy impeachment day, because today is the day they did start impeachment trial, the impeachment hearings.
Yep, they voted that it was constitutional.
It is constitutional. That's about as far as they got, from what I understand.
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. Yeah, this is a good. We're looking at at least a good 2 weeks that we're going to be, dealing with this entire thing. But they did vote that it was constitutional to have
impeachment
impeachment trial for an ex-president, and so that made me a little happy in my pants and and in my brain and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool that I read in the news today. Also, the woman that glued her hair with Gorilla Glue is now looking to potentially sue Gorilla Glue because it did not say don't use it on your hair. It said don't use it on your skin, your eyes, or fabrics, but did not say don't use this spray glue on your hair.
I hope that just gets thrown right out of fucking court. That's ridiculous. Honestly, and I hope she has to pay them lawyer fees.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, she's already got a GoFundMe of about $13,000. People have donated. She was finally able to cut off her ponytail today, but they still can't. But after 22 hours of trying, I mean, even the company, even Gorilla Glue, said that you could probably use acetone or isopropyl alcohol to potentially break it up. As somebody who has used Gorilla Glue in projects at work, Gorilla Glue is.
I use it on my minis.
We use it very often at the Parade Company. Gorilla Glue is some tough shit. It's some strong fucking glue. It is the kind of glue you use when you don't want shit to move.
Yeah.
And this
Gorilla Glue actually came out. I saw Gorilla Glue come out with I think it was a tweet that basically they said we didn't think we actually had to say this, but don't use it on your hair.
Right, exactly. And I think any decent judge will throw that out of court, because that is one of those things. It's like, dude, what are you thinking? I mean, we've got to stop this. We've got to stop people from, with frivolous lawsuits just because someone is an idiot. We've got to stop this kind of stuff.
We do.
I mean, people need to be called out on their dumb shit. This woman was stupid. She should not have used it.
We got to
stop. She even said it.
Yeah, we got to stop rewarding stupid.
Right. She even said in her TikTok or whatever it was, don't ever use this glue on your hair, because she's like touching it and and it's not moving. And that was the thing too. It's not like they can just shave her head. Apparently, I mean, she's glued her hair to her scalp.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, I guess she's flying to LA to try some kind of medical grade industrial glue remover or something. And hopefully, I mean, she may have fucked up her hair permanently, because I mean, she may have destroyed the hair follicles. Who knows? So we need to stop rewarding.
Talk about ultra hold.
Oh my God. So
helmet hair.
I just thought that was the dumbest thing. It is also not made out of gorillas. That is correct. Thank you, CD. maybe for a mohawk, it's great. Just use egg whites if you're gonna, like we did when we were, in the 80s.
Man, Aquanet. That's why there's a hole in the ozone layer. Just
yeah, the goth and punk and big hair eras of the 80s and 90s is why the ozone layer is in the state.
I remember my girlfriends back then. It was, they'd be in the bathroom and all this, and I'd be standing there talking with them, and they'd be doing their hair, and all of a sudden, and I had to leave because it was like getting gassed.
Right? Yeah. When I was in high school, it was big hair was a thing. Of course, big hair, big curled, and big hair perms.
Feather that shit back.
By the time I hit high school, the perms had kind of thing. The perms were really a thing. Maybe about 4 years before I was in high school, it was a big deal. But when I got to like my later high school years, it was still big hair. And actually, it was kind of funny. When I was going to school in Phoenix or in Gilbert, one of the suburbs of Phoenix, the Hispanic girls tended to be the ones with the biggest hair. I don't know if it was a cultural thing or whatnot, but the girls with the Hispanic girls tended to have like these immense, like no kidding, big hairdos that were just like, it had to have taken a lot of hairspray. And yeah, I don't want it to sound racist or anything. It's not, but it was almost always, like I said, consistently the Hispanic girls tended to have.
Well, it's like Renee has seen pictures of me back in high school, and she's seen like my prom pictures and stuff like that, and my prom date, and she's like, "Yep, thanks for the hole in the ozone layer."
Yeah, the 80s were a dark time, man. I remember when I was just watching the Goldbergs the other day, and
yes, big hair was very attractive.
Yeah. And it was, as a straight man, do you find big hair attractive? Yeah, I mean, there's still a part of me that looks
that rocker girl look, or the the goth look that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Super dark hair with the.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because we see those things and we kind of associate them from when we were coming up, when we were developing and going through puberty and developing, and it's amazing how early things can really kind of shape you and continue. I have a super soft spot for denim, a denim miniskirt. Like a girl in a denim miniskirt drive me fucking crazy still to this
leather for me. It's a leather miniskirt.
Leather too, yeah, for sure. Because the rocker girl look was, oh man, totally my thing. And
then the witch boots with the lace socks on top.
Oh,
that was another one that was
sure. But yeah. The good old days. Thanks for coming on board, everybody. For those of you guys that are just joining us or brand new to the show, it's great to have you here. Thanks for tuning in, for lack of a better term. So we are talking right now. We're just kind of gabbing about the 80s, about how big hair was a thing. And so don't use Gorilla Glue spray.
Yeah, that's
in your hair. To replicate that,
there's Aquanet.
You'll definitely get helmet hair if you use Gorilla Glue, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I remember back in the day when girls would use so much hairspray, like you could actually it would move like a solid mass of something.
There were girls I knew.
Helmet hair was a thing.
I used to walk up to them and be like, "Pat, ow."
Yeah, or you get the spikes. They hairspray the spikes, and then you'd be like, I can't touch it. Yeah, it was crazy. And I think it's one of the reasons why I don't tend to use much in the way of hair products. I mean, I just use hairspray, and I don't use hairspray. I just use hair shampoo and conditioner, and that's it. And I've never been one for gel. I've never been one for hairspray because I never liked. I gotta admit, I like the aesthetics of it, but I never liked the feel of it. Yeah. So, you can't run your fingers through a girl's hair when it's all stiff like that. So it was really hair. Exactly.
There was a product I used when my hair was shorter. I was doing it, but since I've grown it out, I've stopped using it because I don't need to. I don't need to style my hair so much. It just kind of falls now, and gets its little wave going. That
exactly. And I'm actually probably spoiling for a haircut pretty soon. I think.
Yeah, I've been needing one for weeks.
Oh, I've been needing one for much longer than that, but still has been on my back about it. Just says my hair looks damaged and it just needs to be trimmed and cut up. And it's probably going to be the shortest it's been in years. So I'm not going to go like super short, but I'll probably be, trimming up a lot of this because it's a lot of, split ends and dead, it just needs to be taken care of. I have a couple of friends that are hairdressers, so it's time. But anyways, we should move on. How was your week?
Pretty typical. Mostly work. Didn't have curling on Sunday because it was Super Bowl. Did watch that. Disappointing game.
The Superbowl.
The Superbowl, yes, the Superbowl. It was good though. I mean, it was a good night. Some decent commercials, some lame ass commercials, but yeah, that's pretty typical. Then last night we actually did our first episode of a new show that I've been throwing around and
kind of batting around.
Yeah, and seeing how it went. But that's Tavern Talk, where we talk D&D and the Tavern Knights campaign.
Mm-hmm. It was fun. It was you and I, Renee and Pete. Pete is Renee's brother. For those guys who don't know, it was fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a really good time.
Yeah, it was funny too because we did what we always do. Tried to sign off. 10 minutes later, tried to sign off. Tried 10 minutes.
Well, we do the Midwest goodbye.
Yeah.
It's where it takes us 20 minutes to say goodbye, if we're lucky. So
but it was great. I mean, for those guys who one like D&D and two like hearing us yammer on about it, and three want to hear us kind of talk about our D&D campaign that Tavern Nights that is every other Friday night here on Drinking Nerds.
It'll be
on Twitch.
This Friday night, as a matter of fact. I can't wait.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
But yeah, one of the things I think going forward, I want to do more of is talk about just the last episode. This being the first one, we were kind of talking about the campaign as a whole, but I want to kind of focus more on the last episode and then get more into like D&D talk and in general and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because this last one we did talk about like a little bit more about like how the game started and a little more of the background details and stuff. So, but yeah, definitely kind of concentrate more on the previous episode.
Yep. But yeah, so that was fun. So, how was your week?
Well, it was my birthday week last week. So, I turned 47. It was Saturday was a little depressing for me because it would have been the start of the Renaissance Festival in Tampa. It was funny because last year, one of the guys did mention, Bay Area Renaissance Festival. One of the guys last year did bring up a point to me saying like, if we open 2021 on the day, the weekend we're scheduled to it, that'll actually be Super Bowl weekend. And I went, oh shit. Because we had opened a Super Bowl weekend a couple years ago, and Super Bowl Sunday was quiet. It was probably the lowest attendance we've had in a long time. Because, honestly, who's gonna we're gonna get some people gonna show up, people that don't care about the Super Bowl, but largely, people are it's gonna be a quiet day. And on top of it too, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in the Super Bowl,
and they were
hosting it as well. Correct.
So it's the Super Bowl. Not only would you have been opening on Super Bowl weekend, you would have been opening on Super Bowl weekend in the town where the Super Bowl is being held, when the hometown team is playing in the Super Bowl.
There would have been a ghost town. There wouldn't have been anybody there. So there's that. So yeah,
that was the first time that's ever happened in history that the home team actually got to play in the Super Bowl.
Really? Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Because God knows that when Detroit hosted the Super Bowl, the Lions weren't in it. Not even close. Anyway,
you ain't got to rub it in.
I know.
Salt Moon. You want to pour a little lemon juice in there while you're at it?
Yeah, it gets a nice paper cut and put a little lemon juice on it. Eh? That's what that hurts. Anyway, So it was a bit of a bummer. Whereas there's still talk about the festival is still kind of they've scheduled it to open on April 10th, but we still haven't heard any news, haven't heard any conversations. The directors haven't said anything, so who knows what's going on down there. it was my birthday week. On a lighter note and a brighter note, I was able on Wednesday of last week to score a PlayStation 5. After much, after much difficulty in tracking them down. As for any of you guys, I mean, and as everybody knows that, it's been difficult. Supplies have been of getting a PS5 were really difficult, particularly before Christmas, but it haven't really improved a whole lot more after Christmas. Yes, they are still, getting shipments and stuff, and but now, it's been very difficult. They a lot of the stores are still only taking, like, say, you're only able to buy them online. You can go and pick them up at the store, but you can only pay for them online. I found out last week that Myers was getting a shipment, some of the various Myers in the area, and they were actually allowing people to come in and buy them. And then, in fact, that was the only way you could get them. You couldn't get them online.
Yep.
You could only buy them in store. So I actually, because I am living the vampire lifestyle right now, I actually stayed up all night and got up and it just left and went at 6 a.m. when the Myers near me opened to see, because of the day before I had been at Myers and they were like, yeah, show up here. It's, get here at 6 a.m. And I showed up and there was one other guy walking in and we both kind of looked at each other and I said, PS5? And he's like, PS5. So we both walk over there and we're like, and there's nobody at the counter because it doesn't open, the electronics doesn't open till 10. And we're like, hey, we were told that, this would be the time to come. And the guys were like, one guy was like, yeah, we didn't get any yesterday. We're like, oh shit. So one dude was like, you know what, show up, give us a call around 12:30, 1 o'clock. That's when the shipment, truck comes in. We might be getting them. So I went home and I came home and I went back to bed and then I woke up around 12:30 and I called that Meyer and they said, we don't know. So I swung in there anyway and they didn't have any. So then I called another Meyer at 12 Mile and 12 Mile and Mound. And they're like, yeah, we have them. And I'm like, oh shit. So I jumped in my car, drove from 8 and Woodward to 12 and Mound, which isn't that far really, and I'm like hurrying into the Meyer. I'm going, oh God, I hope they still got him. I hope they still got him. Cause I was like, when I asked the guy, I go, is there a lineup? Is there a bunch of people? And they go, well, we got people coming in, so you might want to get here. And so I'm walking over there and I'm wearing I have an S Shield t-shirt on and I've got my long black duster on and my top hat. And this guy, as I'm walking towards the electronics counter, this guy kind of just looks me up and down and goes, they still got him. And I'm like, I guess I'm screaming it out of my, but I was hurrying over there too. I wasn't running, but I was walking briskly. And
Meyer's a big store.
Yeah, particularly that one, man. Yeah. That Meyer,
and you got to go huge. To get to electronics. That's all the way in the back.
All the way in the back corner, right? So I mean, I'd never been to that particular Meyer. It's a newer one, and it is monstrous. It's a lot bigger than some of the other ones. And the one at 8 and Woodward is not small. It's a big fucking store. It's also one of the newest ones. So, so I get there and I'm like.
Pushed a few 7-year-olds out of the way.
Yeah, get out of the way. No, there's nobody. There's no lineup. There was another guy in front of me who was buying a controller. He was buying a PS5 controller, and so I stand and was like, yes, I would like a PlayStation 5, please. And the guy behind the counter and the guy looked haggard too. I mean, he was probably in his mid-50s, really skinny, like rock and roll, looked like he was probably a rock and roll guy. He had a bunch of like rock and roll jewelry on. Like I have a couple of rings on. This guy had like one on every finger and they were big fucking rock and roll jewelry. And it was just, the dude looked like he hadn't eaten in a week and was just really thin and kind of hunched over and just, what kind do you want? And I'm like, I want the disc version, the $500 version. And he's like, I got that. And he just turns around and goes into the back and he futzes with something and goes into the back and I'm like, all right. And I'm just standing there. I'm like, and so the other guy behind the counter is in his 50s, or probably older actually, more like he's in his 60s, really short, kind of heavy set guy. One earring completely covered, or one ear completely covered in earrings. And I just kind of looked at him and I'm like, I almost gave up. I didn't know if I was going to get one. And he goes, and he's just very effeminate, you know, and he's just like, well, I'm just super glad that you got one. And that I'm just like, oh my God. It was just like the two guys working in electronics were like the picture of opposites, pretty much. He was very cheery, and I'm like, oh, it was my birthday yesterday. Oh, well, happy birthday. And I'm like, thanks, man. Super nice guy. It was really funny. And so then I'm walking, I'm like, hey, and they back it up and I got it. And there's the guy walks up behind me and he's kind of got that same look in his eyes like I did, you know, like, and I'm like, I look at him, I go, and I kind of just kind of like this. And he goes, yeah, that's what I'm here for. And I go, yeah, well, we got lucky, man. And he goes, oh, I know. He's like, I got up at really early this morning too. I said, so did I. And I went to 8 and Woodward and they didn't have it. He goes, so did I. And he's like, I go, you know, and it's like, it's funny. Like, I still have a PS4 that works. And this thing is, you know, kind of, I want it. And he's like, yeah, man. I mean, the thing is like, I need it because my kid put something in my PS4 and the disc doesn't work anymore. All I can use it for is a media thing. And I was like, oh, well, he goes, hey, I'm like, well, that's pretty, you know, at least you can still use it that way. He goes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it downstairs. It's going to be used for streaming. And I'm like, good. And it was just really funny. But, and then I'm walking out and I got like, the woman asked to see my receipt. I'm like, all right, I think I got profiled. But I was just like, I looked at her, I go, you think they're going to let me just walk out from the electronics store with this? All right, fine. So I just kind of, you know, here's my receipt, and it was fine. But it just cracked me up that the idea, it's like, here's my receipt right here. It just cracked me up with the idea that she was like, I got to check your receipt. You might have stolen that PlayStation 5. All right, whatever. But it's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's huge. I had a perfect spot on the shelf next to my TV, basically. And it is definitely faster. It's definitely, it's a cool system. I'm not playing any PS5 like games yet. I'm just playing PS4 games. And in fact, I don't even think any of the games I have like a PS5 upgrade yet. So like, I
thought Avengers did. I thought Avengers was supposed to be PS5 upgrade on day of.
Not yet. No, apparently not. Because then it would have installed it as such, or it would have given me the option.
Huh? Because that's one of the things I had heard was that if you buy, Avengers, if you bought Avengers when it came out, at least you were supposed to get the upgrade to the PS5 version at launch.
I don't believe so. Yeah. See, does Avengers have a PS5 upgrade? It says it does, but upgrades delayed on PS5. So it did say that on June 23rd of 2020, but of Marvel's Avengers upgrade delayed on PS5, Xbox Series X. Because it gives you, when that happens, when you put an old game in and it's got an upgrade, like say Valhalla, it gives you the option to install it as a PS4 version or as the PS5 version, and it did not give me that option.
Now, can you bring your PS4 game over to the PS5 version if you upgrade it?
I don't know about that.
Okay,
but I did notice like on my PS4 I had all my PS4 games installed into an external hard drive. So all I had to do was unplug it, plug it in. The PS5 immediately recognized it, went, oh, yep, here are all the games, and that's great. All the game files. Although the PS5 or all of your save game files are not on that external. They are saved onto the internal hard drive of the system. So you have to make sure when you're changing everything over, you have to make sure that you switch over all of your save game files, either specifically by linking your systems, because they are very easily linked too. Like if I left my PS4 on the same, on the same network, my PS5 would be able to access it. It's pretty cool, actually. But you can also download them from the cloud too, from the PlayStation Network cloud. So
cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But yeah, earlier this week, Marvel's Avengers got one of its biggest patches ever, complete with a bit of new content. But it seems like this new content will have to tide players over for a while. On Friday, Crystal Dynamics announced several delays to some of its upcoming Marvel Avengers editions, including next-gen version of the game for PlayStation 5 and Xbox One. However, the most immediate delay will be for the game's first new character, Kate Bishop. So a lot of stuff got delayed from the Avengers game, and there were actually, it's one of the big like criticisms about it is that it's not delivering on a lot of the promises that they were originally saying. Now, they did in early 21, I think just recently, they did finally release the first new free update of content, which features Kate Bishop, the female Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. And it actually has both Hawkeyes in it, Clint Barton and Kate Bishop. So I haven't played that yet because like I basically just kind of got through about, and the initial like first player storyline is actually fairly short. It's not super long, but there is a lot of other side missions to do and everything, and different side storyline stuff so that you can upgrade your characters and earn more costume skins and stuff like that. It's a pretty game. It's very beautiful and it's very fun. I'm looking forward to getting into it. But I did set that aside again to go back to Cyberpunk because I am getting close to the end game on Cyberpunk. I actually completed. I just completed the other day, last night, all of the side quests.
Oh, okay.
Well, all the side quests that have been unlocked and are available so far. There might be some more that I haven't opened up yet or haven't been available yet, but all of the points on the map are cleared. All the little blue, little swords that are supposed to be the law breaking, and all of the
little bats with the
spikes all the little bats and spikes, all the little question marks, all those things, completely got those all cleared. So that was kind of cool. I mean, I was like, oh, that's pretty badass. And the only things left are to buy the rest of the cars. So so now I'm getting into the last of the main storyline and stuff, which I've been kind of holding off on doing. And I think I hit level 50. I think that might be the level cap.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So anyway, the system is great. I do recommend it. It's very clean. Even Cyberpunk, a notoriously buggy game, is running pretty well on it. It's still buggy, but it's running pretty well on it. And you can definitely tell because everything just loads up like fucking lightning. It's awesome.
Well, what are you drinking?
I'm just having a mimosa tonight. I didn't get a chance to get out. It's been so cold, and Stella and I mean, for those of you guys if you're listening and you're not in Michigan, we are in the middle of a pretty rough cold snap. And I have not, well, you had a jacket to hide it in. I did, CD, a huge black leather duster. We are in the middle of a huge cold snap, and I was just like, fuck it, I do not want to leave the house. And this is my first longer winter in 7 years. So I'm like, so I didn't get a chance to get out. But I did have some mimosas in the house, and this is one of my favorite.
So we got
favorite drinks.
Yeah, we got nothing compared to what CD's got. Below 10 without wind.
Holy shit! Where are you, CD? Tell us where you are.
It's in Wisconsin, I think, isn't it?
Are you in Wisconsin? Get Barry Sanders back. I met Barry years ago. He used to be a regular at one of the strip clubs I worked at, and he came into John John's a lot. Super nice guy, but did not. He was very quiet, and he actually talks about the fact that he does not regret his time and his career here in Detroit. He loved playing for the Lions, so it was interesting. Because there are some people that had said that Barry Sanders never fully I saw an interview about him, something about him earlier this week, actually, about how he never fully. There's some people that felt like he was kind of wasted in Detroit. And he's like, no, I love playing for the Lions and love Detroit and love the area. And so,
yep.
He's in Lower Wisconsin.
Yeah. I think we've discussed that before.
Oh, okay.
Well, I am drinking an annual beer for me. This is one that I do every year. Because it is slightly different every year as they make it. They only make it once a year. This is Bell's Hop Slam Ale. Oops, which way am I going? There we go. I don't remember which way. It's always opposite of what I think it is. But this is one I used to love this one a lot. It used to be a lot harder to find. They didn't make a lot of it, and it was one of those you had to really kind of know the people at the bottle shop, know when it was coming in. Get there early, wait around for it to come out, grab it. Usually it was limited to like 2 bottles or things like that, or maybe a 6-pack. Now you can buy cases of it. It's not a big deal. They're making a whole lot more of it, mostly due to popularity. But this is a double IPA brewed with honey. And it's one of those beers that really, it actually says on the back that it has a shelf life of 3 months. So you really want to drink it fresh because the hop acids will break down. But this one was packaged on January 7th. So it's just over a month old. Wow. And I didn't even realize it was out. I hadn't heard a lot of hoopla about it this year. But it is a 10% ABV beer. So it's a higher ABV.
Yeah, that's high.
Yeah. It's it's a double IPA, so it's got a lot more hops and a lot more malt. So
that's like Final Absolution high.
Yeah, but I'm actually drinking it in a Bell's glass. So it's got a beautiful golden color, kind of hazy, a little bit, slightly clear. It doesn't really retain a head very much. It has a lot of the hop aroma, and then I'll take a sip here. It's not a crazy overpowering double IPA. It does have a lot of the hop flavor, and it's much more of it's kind of a citrus bitter. It's a mix, so you get a little bit of citrus, but you get a lot of the bittering hops, especially at the end. That's kind of what lingers, like on the back of your tongue. Mm-hmm. I actually really like this. The honey cuts the bitterness quite a bit. It doesn't really make it sweet, but it does actually kind of smooth it out and balance everything. But this actually is a really good beer. I always try and get it every year, even if it's only like a 6-pack. I'm not as crazy about it as I used to be. I'm still going to give this a 4 out of 5 bottle caps. But yeah, it's if you can find it, it's kind of limited. I know that they are mass producing it now, but yes. If you can find it and you like double IPAs, the really hoppy stuff, go for it. It's really good.
Well, alrighty then.
Oh,
so
great beer, CD. Spotted Cow, love that beer. I think I've still got a couple downstairs from my last trip to Wisconsin, but that was over a year ago.
Right.
I want to get back to Madison. Visiting the New Glarus Brewery was a blast. Had a great time going there. Really cool. It's like this whole area. It's a whole big complex type thing, but it's like a farm. It's not like like your big brewery. So it was really cool.
Very cool. So we got a Mosa from Star Cut from me, and for you,
Hop Slam Ale.
Hop Slam Ale from Bell's. Okay.
In Comstock, Michigan.
All right. All right. So what do we start with? Well, let's start with the Snyder Cut news.
Yes. Yeah. So there's been a bunch of stuff coming out about the Snyder Cut. I mean, we're just over a month away from it being released, March 18th on HBO Max. They had said that originally it was going to be a 4-hour miniseries.
Yeah.
4 1-hour episode miniseries, and now they're saying it's just going to be one big movie instead.
Like an hour and 40 minutes of unseen footage.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to what we've seen already, plus another 5 minutes of footage that he shot. recent new stuff they shot. Because
I heard that he had tens of millions of dollars for reshoots. Is what?
Like it was like I think it came out to be like 70 million altogether. They originally gave him like 30 million, and then he was like, I need more, and they gave him more, and then he needed more for more special effects shots, and I think it was something like 70 mil to put this together.
A lot of the stuff that we've been seeing though, so we've been getting looks at Darkseid,
right?
One of the things I saw today, and actually I guess this came out last year, but it's now the finished scene, is you see Cavill actually fly in as Superman, in the all black Superman suit,
the recovery suit,
which looks cool as hell. And he actually walks up and he's like, "You're Alfred, aren't you?" Because he's actually flying like into Wayne Manor. It looks like.
It looks like, and Alfred says something like, they need you, or they need the.
He just says something like, "Yeah," or "Yes," or something like that. It was kind of cool. But
the thing is, from what I understand, I mean, largely the whole stuff where Cal comes, like, reawakens, and he's kind of groggy, and he's fighting the Justice League, and then Batman basically brings in Lois to kind of like shake him out of his stupor. I believe that was largely all Joss Whedon stuff. I believe Superman, like Zack Snyder, had a completely different way of bringing Superman back into the whole, back into it after he had died in BVS. So I'm really excited to see.
Well, and then the other thing was we got pictures of Jared Leto's Joker for Justice League, which originally, I guess, in the original plan, even in Snyder's plan, he wasn't part of it. But when he was handed tens of millions to do it, he actually made a personal phone call to him and said, "Hey, how would you like to do it?"
Now, I like the newer look. I think it's a little. Yes. It's a lot closer to a kind of a combination of what Jared Leto did and what Heath Ledger did.
Well, it's only black and white photos that I've seen, and yes, the makeup looks more like what I would expect. There's no tattoos on the face that I can see. There's some scars, but there's no tattoos. Hair's a little longer.
Yeah, and he also doesn't have the big like scars on the face that.
Well, you can't really tell, but
we can tell.
Yeah.
I was trying to avoid some of the imagery just because I was like, I wanted to kind of go in with fresh eyes, but then I ended up looking at him. It's fine. I'm not a anti-spoiler kind
spoiler phobe.
I'm not a spoiler phobe. I'm like, it's not going to stop me from seeing it and enjoying it. But yeah, I've seen some images of Darkseid, and I'm not unhappy with those either. Apparently they've tweaked Steppenwolf too, and so that he looks a little cooler. I'm really excited about this. I think this is going to be something that the DC films have definitely gotten the kind of the short end of the stick when it comes to these superhero movies. They've come under a lot more fire, and I think as people just keep, they expect them to be the Marvel movies, just the DC versions of the Marvel movies, and they're not. They're different. They're just going to have a different tone. They have different tones, and I think if they had maybe gone the same direction with the DC movies initially, like they did with the Marvel movies, maybe starting with a character that was a little less, like, that was known but that wasn't quite as super popular, like Iron Man, and kind of built up from there, it could have been cool, but it might have gone a different direction, but that's the thing, the DC characters are so much more of an iconic flavor than the Marvel characters. So, it's a whole different tone that comes from that comes from the base at the comic book level, and so they have to be approached differently. So I'm hoping that this kind of breathes a little bit more life into it, but they also have said that this Justice League movie is kind of a cul-de-sac. Zack Snyder is pretty much done now after this, and they're going to be moving on to other visions.
I'm not upset with that.
I'm okay with the moving on to somebody else. I didn't hate Zack Snyder's thing, but I did like. I thought that like Man of Steel was solid. I didn't.
I have yet to make it through Man of Steel without falling asleep.
Oh man, it was really a solid film. It was dark. It was a darker take on him, and I liked Batman versus Superman.
I still absolutely despise the casting of Lex.
Yeah, that was a big mistake. I didn't like Eisenberg as Lex at all. Many other villains, I could see him as a bunch of different other villains, but Lex Luthor, not so much. I didn't care for that. I hear that Joe Manganiello did come back for a couple of scenes for this new movie as Deathstroke, which I'm all about. I think Manganiello, perfect Deathstroke. Yeah, there were definitely big problems, and I think a lot of it comes down to the idea that the people that were involved in the Marvel films are true fucking Marvel zombies. They're true fans of Marvel comics. I mean, what's his name? The director of
Favreau,
Jon Favreau, big geek. Gigantic fan of Marvel comics, big fan of comics in general. But
I think Feige is too,
and Feige is as well. There's huge fans of the source material, and I think one of the DC's problems that they've had is that DC, for the DC movies, the producers and the directors and whatnot have catered to the idea more so of like, yeah, we like these characters and whatnot, but I'm a big deal director and I'm going to make my version of Superman.
It's the Ryan Johnson thing.
Right.
I'm going to do what I want.
I'm going to do what I want. And that's fine to some extent, but you also have to pay proper homage to the source material. And I think sometimes some of these directors have strayed a little bit too far from that source material. People argue is like, yeah, but Superman is still from Krypton. It's not like he changed him. He still was raised in Kansas by the Kents. They didn't change that. No, they didn't. But they did put Zack Snyder's kind of darker perspective on everything in his setting, and which is why I think Joss Whedon's vision didn't work as well, because he was taking what Zack Snyder had started and then ran with it and tried to make it his own. But it was like, it was like Zack Snyder was the penciler and Joss Whedon was the inker, and they couldn't quite come together to make a cohesive drawing.
You a tracer, man.
And you see it sometimes in comics where like an inker and a penciler are working together and they haven't worked together long, and they're still feeling each other out. And I think that's one of the things that Justice League suffered by. And then on top of it too, they were also calling out Joss Whedon for creating a toxic work environment too. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But I think maybe if Zack Snyder had been able to finish his vision, or if Joss Whedon had been there at the beginning and started it, I think then we would have seen a good movie. I mean, look at what Joss Whedon, look at what he did with the Avengers.
That's what I was just going to say. I think he did a great job with Avengers. I mean,
he did.
I thought that was fantastic. But there's a couple things though. Avengers is not Justice League.
Correct.
They are not, one, they're not the same, and two, they weren't built up the same way.
Correct.
Like you said. But overall, they are not the same. There is a definite different feel between the Avengers and between Justice League.
Right. Exactly. I mean, even if you look at the comics and stuff, I mean, the Justice League and the Avengers are still friends. I mean, not together, but the members of those super teams are friends. But the Avengers, they're more like, we're going to live in this mansion together. We're going to be professional superheroes
a
lot of the time. Right. Most of them don't have, a lot of them don't have like secret identities on the same level. You know, they might have a secret identity, but it's not something that they really protect heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody knows that Steve Rogers is Captain America now. At one point he had a secret ID, but it's not so much. Thor, he doesn't really have a secret ID. Clint Barton, Hawkeye, doesn't have a secret ID. It depended on the character. I mean, Spider-Man, when he was in the Avengers, he maintained his secret identity, but the rest of the team still knew it. But they, you know, he wasn't public with it at the time. The same thing, you know, they lived together, they worked together, they were, I'll say, closer to a working family. The Justice League are friends that work together, but they don't live together. They don't go. It's not like they're going out to dinner all the time or hanging out in their off time, that kind of thing. They do their own thing. They're a tight-knit group, but they're like a tight-knit like department in a company, you know. Whereas the Avengers are a lot more, in particular, like I said, I'm talking more so in the comic books. The Avengers are a lot more built up, like, you know, like a team, like a sports team that work together and live together and are much tighter like that. And I think that was one of the things they kind of established and tried to establish in the movies. Justice League, not so much, man. It's still very separate. It's still there. They basically are still very like they came together for a specific purpose and then are going to go off and do their own thing afterwards. Whereas the Avengers are like, no, we're a thing now. So, and that leads to the overall tone of those films. So I'm hoping that the next, whoever takes the reins next, is able to kind of come to terms with that idea. In fact, I think I like better what they were establishing in the Arrowverse for like the Justice League, essentially, where the Flash and Green Arrow and Supergirl and, you know, the Martian Manhunter and whatnot, those characters kind of come together to create and the Black Lightning to kind of create a Justice League in their Arrowverse setting. I haven't gotten to those shows yet. I'm still kind of catching up, but I know that that's kind of what happens after the crisis. So, anyway, we'll see.
But speaking of Avengers, Super Bowl Sunday gave us the latest trailer for Falcon and Winter Soldier. A nice long trailer, not a teaser.
No,
got
2.5 minutes.
See some stuff.
Yeah.
Got to hear Zemo speak and basically do his thing where superheroes cannot be allowed to exist, and show him carrying his mask and all that. That was kind of cool. But what I really liked about it was we got to see what the interaction between Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be like.
Right.
They don't like each other.
I think they do like each other, but I see I see the two of them more so as like very competitive brothers. They're like you know, a pair of brothers that are maybe a year apart and are just super competitive for like almost like competing for dad's approval. And because they're both Steve's partners and both Steve's good friends, and you know, Bucky was his childhood friend,
and that's one of the things I got too. Was it's almost like the No Steve Liked Me More. Yeah,
and I mean, we don't get to see as much of the relationship development of the Falcon and Cap, because you see them. He's introduced in Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier, and you know that he goes off, that Sam goes off with Steve to help him find Buck later on, and you know, because now that Bucky's woken up and is, you know, realizes who he is and everything, and so you understand that they became friends, and then you see them working together in Civil War. So the idea is this: they've been working together and they're friends, but you know, it's just we're not treated to that. Whereas at the same time, you know, in Captain America, we understood that they were lifelong friends and had been friends since they were kids. and best friends. So, and it was an interesting take on that whole relationship because it's very different from the comic book. In the comic book, Bucky and Steve didn't meet until after he had already become the super soldier.
Okay.
Bucky was the teenager. He was like the camp mascot for Camp Knee High, where he was first training. And like Bucky's father had been a soldier and had died in the war or whatever, and so Bucky was like kind of the camp orphan, and they all kind of just took care of him. And then Bucky discovered he caught Steve Rogers changing, and discovered that he was Captain America. So they decided the government and the army essentially decided that they were going to train Bucky to be Cap's partner and to be his sidekick partner. Right. And they'd even said that because it would be really good for the newsreels to show Captain America fighting alongside his teenage pal, you know. And then also it was revealed in the comic books that Bucky actually did a lot of Steve's wet work. Like Bucky would go in as an advanced scout, and he was the one that was running around with the gun, whereas Captain America really wasn't carrying a rifle into battle and stuff. But Bucky was, and he was like taking out guys and shooting guys. He was kind of doing Cap's kind of dirty work so that Cap could kind of be more like innocent in that whole thing. So like when he did become the Winter Soldier, it was easier for him to be trained into that because he already had all that training and stuff. So it was easier for him to be brainwashed. And so it's like it was kind of how the writers kind of like took a darker turn for Buck in the comics.
Yeah. Well, we're getting off topic there though, but with this, one of the coolest parts of that whole trailer though was Sam throw the shield, Bucky catch it.
Yeah, it's almost like they're sharing it.
Yeah.
And that's what some of the speculation has been. It's almost like because Sam never says in Endgame, he never says, okay, I'll be Captain America. He takes the shield and just kind of goes, wow, you know, I mean, and Steve is like, I'm passing this on to you. And I think he passed it.
Do you know why he passed it to him and not Bucky?
Because Bucky had a lot of demons.
No, it's because Sam's a good man.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. Sam is a good man,
and Bucky is the ultimate soldier.
Right.
So, and it actually goes back to Captain America. And I didn't realize this until I saw something online that's exactly what the doctor tells him when he's talking about when he's sitting down with Steve, and he's like, "Why do you want me to do this?" And he says, "Because you're a good man."
Right.
I don't need a soldier. I need a good man.
Sure. Yeah. And I also think that, you know, I think it just felt like Bucky just had still a lot of work to do to get over like the things that he had in his head and everything. Whereas Sam, yeah, he was a good man. He was, and he could do the job. And I personally really liked it too, because at the time Sam Wilson was, or right before then, Sam Wilson had been Captain America in the comics too. Mm-hmm. So, or a second Captain America. So that was really, really cool. I like that whole idea.
But it looks like it's going to be a cool show.
It does. I think it's going to be great. I mean, they've established that there is a new Captain America, or a U.S. agent, the U.S. agent to try, the government is creating to replace Steve. And so there's going to be conflict there. And
we get to see Sarah Carter.
Yeah, Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter, that's right.
Sharon Carter, and she's come back, the same actress. That was really cool. I've always felt that they didn't do enough with Sharon Carter, because in the comics, you know, Sharon is, you know, Steve's girlfriend, and is the niece of, you know, Agent Carter, the first Carter. So Peggy Carter. So I think that's been really cool. And the interesting thing is like in the Avengers video game, the video game is kind of an alternate world of it's not the canon world of Marvel Comics, but it's really interesting, some really cool stuff. And one of the things that the overlying thing is that AIM is working to try and rid the world of superhumans. They think that superhumans are, particularly MODOK, the guy running AIM, is a bad thing, that the world shouldn't have superhumans. So the fact that Baron Zemo in this show doesn't want superhumans, I thought that was kind of a cool parallel that they're running between the two. But yeah, I'm super excited. As much as I am loving WandaVision, and just am like just loving it.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that in a minute. I'm also like I cannot wait for Falcon and Winter Soldier. And the Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be a lot more, I think, what people are expecting from a Marvel TV show. All action and
some quips and the whole thing with you got a plan? Yeah, and he jumps out the plane and Bucky's like, ugh!
Yeah.
Or like when Bucky's holding on to the bottom of the truck, he's like, that girl kicked your ass.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't want to say that they're frenemies, because I don't think they're frenemies. I think they are. I agree. I think they're like a couple of competitive brothers that are like, Steve liked me better, and whatever. And I think that's what we're going to see.
Well, and the woman that's like interviewing him, doing like the psychological thing, when she's like, see, now wasn't that better?
Wait, are you guys doing a staring contest?
Stop!
Blink! Yeah. I also liken it to like a cop show where they're partners and they kind of get on each other's nerves a lot, that kind of thing.
It's kind of like it's going to be like the Alien Nation thing.
Oh, I loved Alien Nation.
Yeah, with the, what's your name? Samuel Francisco. Wait,
I'm not
Sam
calling
Francisco?
You.
I'm not calling you Sam Francisco.
George, I'll call you George. Actually, I loved that movie and I loved the TV show. That was a really great show.
I mean, how could you not love the movie? It's Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin and James Caan.
Yeah.
I mean, the two of them together was great, a great fish out of water cop show.
Yep.
So cool. And it, like I said, it set up a really cool show. And then the show set up a really great, like, kind of little universe, or it was a very cool world building. And then the show lasted, I think, like 2 seasons or 1 season, and then they had
it wasn't very long.
They had a number of like TV movies that came along. I think there were 4. I actually have them on DVD right up over there, and yeah, because it was just so good. They were really great, and so anyway, we should probably move on.
Yeah.
We've got a couple other things to talk to, but we're going to close the show, guys, out with WandaVision.
Yeah.
We did want to talk about a couple other things. Chris, we did the Snyder thing. We did Falcon. I talked about PS5. I wanted to one quick thing.
Yep.
So for those of you guys who followed steampunk for years ago, there was a model. If you Google her, she comes up as pretty much the face of steampunk. It was Sarah Hunter. She was a
Lady Clangington.
Lady Clangington, yeah. She made kind of got some fame. She was making like steampunk themed guns out of and using vibrators as the main, or older, like using vibrators as the main, like kind of shaft of the game, of the barrel of the gun. And she got a lot of attention, and people were buying them. They were basically art pieces that were just really cool. And she was a model. She's a glamour model. She's actually been in Penthouse and I believe Hustler, and she's been in some stuff. She's a beautiful girl. She's actually also an actress and has
really
done
nice too.
Really nice and super smart. And I met her when she came. She was a guest at the World Steam Expo, and hooked her up with Russ Turner. He shot her a few times, and but she was also dating Thomas Dean Williford, who was the pretty much also like one of the big names in steampunk fabrication, and still is. He was also a judge on the show Steampunked, which was kind of a steampunk version of Face Off, where a bunch of steampunk fabricators and artists came together. My friend Carrie Ann happened to be on the show. Sarah Hunter she's also an actress. She's made a bunch of kind of skin flick softcore movies and stuff. And but anyway, she and Tom at that time, she and Tom Williford were a couple, and she was quite young, and he was quite a bit older than her. They broke up back in 15. They dated from 10 to 15, and today she posted, actually the other day, in support of Evan Rachel Wood's claims about Marilyn Manson and his abuse. Sarah, who goes by Sarah Herrick now, her real name, posted on Facebook about that she had been in a relationship with somebody who had abused her rather dramatically. So today she actually then did name him, and it turns out that it was Thomas Williford. So I just wanted to kind of put this out to all of you guys. For those of you guys who have not heard this or didn't see it, I read the post, I actually commented on it and stuff. And I was really bummed out when I read the original one, thinking, God, I hope this isn't Thomas, because he seemed like a decent guy when I met him. And I've appreciated his work. But she detailed all the abuse and a lot of the things. So I do recommend, I did say that I'm glad she named him, and this kind of stuff people need to be called out for their shitty behavior, because the only way that things are going to improve. You know, Marilyn Manson has several people have come forward saying that he was abusive, and we've got to stop excusing their abusive behavior just because they're talented artists. And the same thing for somebody like Tom Williford, who is not super famous, but is well known within his community. And we need to make sure that people get called out for their bad behavior. At the same time, we also need to keep our heads about ourselves. If somebody is genuinely remorseful for the things that they've done, we need to consider that in whether we're going to forgive them for that kind of stuff, or if the person that accused them is willing to accept that apology and forgive them for that kind of stuff. I try not to be too quick to judge, and I like to kind of see more evidence than just one person coming forward. But I just felt that was something that needed to be said. You know, I mean, there's a lot of really, really, really horrible things being said about Marilyn Manson these days, and a lot of people are like, I'm not that surprised. I mean, he's been dropped from his labels. He's being kind of deplatformed, you know, because of what he has done and what he did. And it wasn't just Evan Rachel Wood. Several people have come forward. Several women have come forward. Hell, even Corey Feldman came forward saying that Manson was either abusive or had stalkery kinds of behavior towards him that Corey Feldman felt abused by. So I don't know. I guess this kind of bothered me a lot. So I kind of want to just kind of address it real quick about that. We need to listen to these women and need to listen to what they're saying and what they're and whatnot. I do still feel that the people they're accusing should have the ability to defend themselves, but they should definitely be on the defensive, and they need to be on that defensive, because, you know, people, these kind of horrible behaviors need to be called out. People need to stop doing this shit, you know, gaslighting and negging people. And, you know, I mean, the things that she detailed out were some pretty rough stuff. So, you know, yeah, so that's it. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean to bring shit down.
No, that's all right. But speaking of other issues going on in the nerd community and things like that, there's been a big thing lately about, especially with what D&D is doing with their changes to the races and things like that, and how, you know, there aren't the inherently evil races, and they're trying to change some other aspects. World of Darkness has also come out and basically done something similar with Vampire the Masquerade. Now, one of the things, and I've read the article on it, and because I haven't seen it, I haven't collected a World of Darkness book in a long time. I always loved World of Darkness, but it's one of those games that I I can run D&D all day long.
Yeah.
I can't run World of Darkness. There's just something about it. I can't come up with a good story. I love playing it. I love that world. I love the game setup and all that, and it's much more story based and everything than just rolling dice. But I can't. I'm not a. I don't feel like I'm a good enough storyteller to actually be able to tell a story.
These two shelves right here are all World of Darkness hardcover books.
I mean, I've played Vampire. I've played Changeling. I've looked at Mage. I've looked at Werewolf.
I've played them. I played them a lot.
I even looked at Hunter.
Most of the gaming I did in the early to mid, well, the mid '90s was World of Darkness, because that was.
I did a lot of Vampire in the mid '90s.
Hugely popular.
There was one game that basically it was supposed to be set in the future. It was a cross between Vampire the Masquerade and Twilight 2000, and so it was a post-apocalyptic world, and we were playing ourselves, but we were turned into vampires. One person decided she wanted to be a werewolf instead, so he let her do that.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this. Yeah,
except for one person who said, "I don't want to be myself. I want to be somebody else." And we wound up killing him, and he got all pissy. We're like, we have known each other for, at this point, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
We don't know who you are. We all got these powers and stuff. We don't know who you are.
Right.
We don't trust you.
So anyway, yeah. And so they're doing some really great stuff.
Yes.
And
now, well, here's the big thing, though. So what D&D has done is basically just reiterating Rule 0, which is, if you don't like something, change it. That is the basic Rule 0. It always has been. Those aren't rules; they're guidelines. If you don't like something, change it, get rid of it. It's your game. What World of Darkness is doing is they're actually rewriting the basic backgrounds for a bunch of the clans.
Right. One specifically I can think of is like the Ravnos clan. The Ravnos clan was meant to be very similar, kind of their design and look and whatnot was supposed to be very much like the Romani kind of idea, and they were all supposed to be very they were all supposed to be like thieves and scoundrels and stuff like that, which is what people have always referred to as, with the G word, that gypsy, which is considered a slur, and whereas a lot of people still are having trouble with that, because it was such a part of the kind of it was just a common word for the longest time, but within the last couple of years, people have kind of named it as a slur now. So we're not really saying that, as hence the G word. And I'm not going to say it again. Now the Ravnos clan, instead of having like these hyper stereotypical ideas of what the traveler kind of thing was, or what the Romani were stereotyped as, now they're more, I think their cultural weakness or their clan weaknesses now is that they can never rest in the same place for long.
Yeah.
I think they kind of constantly keep moving.
Have to constantly keep moving.
Yeah. Like they can't, their haven can't be like longer than a week or something like that, and they got to move on. And because in Vampire the Masquerade, for those of you guys who don't know, in the World of Darkness settings, each of the different clans of vampire or tribe of werewolf or whatever has an established clan or tribal weakness. Just like they have an advantage in certain things. They have a quirk or weakness that they have to adhere to. And that's for one of them.
Yeah. Well, one of the other ones they're doing is the Assamites.
Right.
Which were basically very, very much a Middle Eastern assassin clan is really what they were. Basically, they were Assassin's Creed is kind of what they were. But one of the things was that they drank the blood of other vampires.
Correct.
And as they grew older and more detached from humanity,
they got darker.
Yeah.
Their skin and their body became darker.
And now they've gotten rid of that, And
which was the opposite of most of the other clans. Most of the other clans, like as a vampire age, they got more and more kind of light skinned.
Yeah. And now their big thing is that they drink the blood of the unjust.
Right.
Which most of the time, the ultimate unjust being would be a vampire.
Right. So they're they would hunt,
and their skin doesn't get darker now. It just
stays the same what it was. They've also made some changes to the followers of Set as well.
Yes.
I can't remember what that was, but so
they became the. Oh no, that's the Ravnos. They're the epitome of the trickster god now.
Right.
That's what it is now. They're the tricksters. Because there's trickster gods in all mythos.
Right. Correct. That was one of the things that the Ravnos they went away from. So they're not so much like a race of vampiric thieves. They're tricksters. Yeah. But it was really progressive. It was really cool, and it follows on the heels of like Dungeons and Dragons trying to make these minute adjustments without making sweeping changes. Whereas World of Darkness went, "Fuck it, no, man, we'll just fucking change it. This is what we got to do, man." And that's great. That's really great.
I was looking for that article that I found because I know I posted it on Nerds
on Facebook.
But if you want to check it out, they go through all the different ones that changed, and I thought it was really cool. It was a great article, and I'm actually super impressed, and it makes me want to go back and play some more Vampire if I can find a game. My buddy Steve over in Ireland is supposed to be running a game, but it's one of those where it's going to be tough to work out timing.
Right.
Because of the 5-hour time difference. He's planning on doing it online. So, it was on dicebreaker.com. But yeah, the...
let's
hold on,
let's
shut up.
Here it is.
The followers of Set, yeah.
Yeah.
They're now the Ministry.
Right.
Shedding their connection to North Africa and Egypt. The vampire as a corruptor is a powerful and interesting archetype, and by discharging the links to a particular ethnic group and faith, the Ministry have gone from one-dimensional villains to multifaceted clan of tempters that is home to cult leaders, pyramid scheme influencers, and gang leaders alike. Right. So they're basically corruptors.
Right. So they're trying to get away from some of the things that when they established this game in the 90s. Of a more, instead of getting away from racial stereotypes, they're just moving towards something that's a little more broader. And I think it's a great idea because they really were things that were, some of them were a little more social stereotypes, but a few of the later clans that were made, because the Ravnos and the followers of Set, the Assamites, they were those were clans that were created later on. The original ones were the 7 ones of the Camarilla, which were, the Venture, the Gangrel, the Tremere, the Toreador. They weren't so much.
What was the other one?
The Nosferatu
and the Bully, the Bruja.
The Bruja. So most of them weren't really centered around like an ethnicity or any kind of racial kind of thing.
They were your general Europeans mostly.
Yeah, mostly. The Tremere, that was the other one too.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got them right there. The Toreador were the artists.
Oh, that's right.
The Tremere were the sorcerers.
Yeah, the Malkavians were the ones I always
wanted to play. Malkavians were the crazy ones. Yep. Right. So they were all kind of like, that, and then but then later on they were like coming up with other ones who were like, okay, how about vampires from the Middle East, and how about vampires from North Africa, and how about vampires from that are based on a Romani kind of idea. So that was cool. Now on the other hand, though, in Werewolf the Apocalypse, there was a lot of the tribes of werewolves were based on more ethnic kind of ideas. Like there were a couple of them at the very least. Like there were I think, a werewolf clan of, do I have all of them? I think I have them all, but I have them as a collection. There was a one werewolf tribe that was specifically very Germanic. And there was another werewolf tribe that was, there's several, at least two, I think. No, there's one specifically that was also very Native American, the Wendigo. There was, but then there was also the Glasswalkers, which were all supposed to be werewolves that were more like city-based, and stuff like that. So, and I don't think anybody is calling them out for that kind of shit, though. But they weren't, I don't think they were quite as, almost, I say they maybe weren't quite as offensive. Maybe because, well, I mean, the German one was, they're white people. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like people aren't going to call out white people, any kind of stereotypes about white people, because there's plenty of white people and we're not marginalized. So
yeah.
I didn't have the individual ones. I had them collected edition.
But anyway. Yeah, if you want to see the article, though, it's up on the Facebook page.
Really cool.
It is a cool article, and I like what they're doing. I applaud you, World of Darkness.
Yes. And I you gotta applaud Wizards of the Coast too for making the changes they're making. Considering the fact
reiterating a rule a rule that's been there forever, the Rule 0. That's, to me, it's what they're doing. Do I think it needs to be done? No. Do I think they need to reiterate what they're doing? No. Just reiterating Rule 0, I don't think does it. Because, I mean, a lot of people, including me, have done that for years. Right. I mean, you guys just went to a village in the evil Pomage that was filled with a bunch of friendly orcs and goblins and humans.
Right.
All living together.
And
trying to make it in that rough terrain. So they welcomed you in. They didn't try and kill you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, it's still one of those.
Got his ass kicked for you.
Sure, but it's one of those things, though, that D&D is still kind of part of that intrinsic part of the game where you choose your race, and one of those things that they're trying to get away from is the idea of like that an entire race could be considered evil or considered bad, and so hence the fact that now there's a bigger push for them to be removing the idea of race as a big part of as a major part of your character creation, and where it's more of like, instead of you're going, yes, I am an elf, you are a warrior that has the lineage of elf, and so you're not locking in that idea that all elves have a bonus to their intelligence and a disadvantage to their constitution, and an advantage to their dexterity. Taking away that idea that these racial stereotypes are a part of the gameplay. And I think that that's not a terrible idea. I mean, and I think that's one of the things that why we're seeing some pushback from some of the older people. We saw earlier this week, Tracy Hickman, one of the original writers of the Dragonlance setting in Dungeons and Dragons, wrote, he posted on Facebook a image that some of us have seen, and it was all right. It was a painting of.
It highly angered me.
It was a painting of Critical Role above, and a classic
Mighty
painting
Nine specifically
of the Mighty Nine, the characters of the Mighty Nine. A really great painting, by the way. I love that painting. And underneath it, a classic painting of the companions from Dragonlance by Larry Elmore. One of the very distinctive paintings that defined what those characters looked like. And it said, reject modernity, accept tradition, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that is actually a direct quote from, I guess, a book on fascism. And people I called him out for it. And from what he had said, he goes, he didn't post it because he thought it was offense, or, he wasn't trying to offend anybody. He just thought it was kind of funny and didn't know where the quote came from. But a lot of people are, like I said, the older fans are saying things like, are not always appreciating some of these new rule changes that are being made to accommodate some of these newer ideas that are coming out. Like things like, creating rules for characters that are physically handicapped, or creating rules for character, or taking away the idea of the race in a D&D.
Yeah, that's actually from Elements of Fascism, I guess.
Yeah,
is the book.
So I mean, he did say, "Hey, I'm sorry, guys. I did not mean to offend anybody. I just thought it was kind of funny."
No, he didn't say sorry. He just said, "I thought it was." No, he never said sorry. He just said, "I took it down because it was sending the wrong message." And he had said that he thought it was funny when he saw it, but he realizes it was sending the wrong message. There was no actual apology.
So he didn't apologize, but he did kind of explain a little bit more about it. It's like that he didn't mean to offend somebody. He just took it, and he took it down. So there's that at least. I figure he probably he's an older guy, didn't get it.
Even Larry Elmore came out and was like, yeah, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. So I like to hope that the one of the writers of one of my favorite D&D settings wouldn't do that kind of thing on purpose, but you never know. And I'm glad that he at least took it down and acknowledged that was definitely sending the wrong message. So there's that. It is getting moving. We're getting late.
We got to move on because it's already getting late, and there is so much to unpack from this latest episode of WandaVision.
Exactly. So episode 5.
Yep, we will be spoiling. So if you haven't seen it, you should have watched it by now because it is one of the best shows on TV right now. I think.
Right. And honestly, probably one of the heaviest watched. I mean, everybody's talking about it. So, and
Disney
I think anybody,
Plus, in my opinion, Disney Plus may be the most worth it streaming service out there right now, with the stuff that they've done between Mandalorian, WandaVision, Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier coming up, and then Loki and all that stuff. I mean, I think they've got some of the best shows on TV currently.
Yeah, and CD, you're right. It's like releasing them weekly is really it's building up all of the tension and I think people are it's giving people like things to talk about and speculate.
It gives you time to digest each episode.
Yeah,
and talk about it. That's one of the things I loved about what HBO did with Game of Thrones. It gave you a week to sit and talk with your friends and for dumbasses like us to get on here and talk about the show and everything that goes on about it and speculate and come up with ideas.
Exactly. So we saw in episode 4, we saw finally a bunch of answers. We got a bunch of answers out of
we interrupt this program.
Right, out of Monica as she came flying out, actually we get those answers from her in 5, but we find out like how this kind of led up, what happened, the fact we're getting a little more on the timeline. We find out Jimmy Woo is brought in. We get Dr. Darcy Lewis. Yep. We get so all these people. We find out what happened to Monica during the blip, and all these other things was great. And we're like, oh, wonderful, Well, in episode 5, we get a return to the sitcom, and it is a 80s. an 80s Growing Pains kind of.
It is Family Ties, Growing Pains, and Full House all wrapped into one.
Absolutely.
And the opening credits are all 3 of those.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The painting is Family Ties.
Family Ties, right?
Yep. The pictures are Growing Pains.
Yep.
Because they did those. And the picnic outside the gazebo is straight from Full House.
Right. Which is really funny considering, her sisters were the twins on Full House.
Yeah. Well, they weren't the twins.
They were
one character.
One character, right. And it's funny that she is playing a twin when her sister's playing a single character.
Yeah.
So, in fact, there are a few people it's funny. I've seen posts this week about people going, "Hey, they had no idea that Elizabeth Olsen is Mary Kate."
Renee didn't until I told her like a week ago, and she's like,
"Really?"
She's like, "Wait, what?"
They look similar too, which is really kind of funny. So anyway, so now we've gotten more information. I mean, we found out about how she had her babies in the 70s episode,
yep,
and now in the 80s episode, they're still got the babies. the neighbor comes over.
Well, she's looking all frazzled at first. She's trying to get him to stop crying. And then Vision's trying to, and they do that whole thing.
Right. And then the neighbor comes over in her like 80s workout outfit.
Jazzercise
outfit. I was just on my way to Jazzercise. And then
it's the first time we see Agnes without the brooch.
Which brooch?
The cameo.
Oh, really?
She did not have it on her Jazzercise outfit.
Good eye. I didn't notice that one. But we did see the first thing where it kind of tweaks the reality, where she interacts with them because she doesn't know what to do, and she's like, "Should I go back? Should we start over?"
Well, and it's almost because Vision kind of freaks out about the babies,
right?
And he's like, "No, you should just leave them." And Agnes just kind of freezes, and she's like, "I don't know what to do." And,
right,
because she looks at Wanda, and she looks scared,
right? Because Wanda's in charge.
Yeah, and she's like, "Do you want me to should we take it again?" And Wanda looks at her like, "What?"
Exactly.
I don't know that Wanda's actually in charge. I think she is to a point. She has moments where she is completely lucid, and then there's others where she seems like she doesn't understand what's going on. That might have been one where she was trying to play it off because Vision was looking at her funny too.
I think so too. I think that was one where she's like, "What are you talking about, Vish?" And just trying to play that off. She is definitely, Stella and I were talking about this. We think that she's controlling it now, or that she's trying to control it now, but we think it's getting too big for her, and that's why she's slipping now.
Mm-hmm.
And people are starting to slip away. Why Vision is starting to realize things. But I think somebody started this with her.
I think someone gave her that power. I don't think this is all her.
Or at least awakened the power within her to do this kind of thing. And I think that's what we're going to see as the show progresses. I don't think it's Mephisto. I think Mephisto is something that is going to show up more so in like Doctor Strange or something.
But this is supposed to lead right into Doctor Strange.
It is, but I still don't think it's Mephisto. I think people are thinking a little too big.
I think it could be. And I think that's and I think this is what's going to cause the terror in the multiverse that's going to lead to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
That's entirely possible, but I still don't think it's. I just got a feeling it's not Mephisto. It's too mystical. And the show is very much couched in science. I mean, not the show, but like the MCU itself is very much couched in a more of a science thing, because Doctor Strange was truly the first time they tapped into the magic of it. Because people will argue, no, Thor. Thor had already said at a certain point that his people were just so far advanced that their technology looked like magic to everybody else. So I think, and that's totally the case. I mean, if you were to take, if you or I were to go 1,000 years into the past with a car and a computer and whatever, and we're able to keep those things working, it would look like magic to those people.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's something else. I think it's it could be alien influence. It could be AIM or Hydra or something. But I'm just guessing it's not.
Well, so anyway, so we get that the babies are crying, they won't shut up, and all of a sudden everything goes quiet.
Right, and they're gone.
And when they go back and they're like, "Oh my God, it worked!" And Agnes isn't there anymore. She's over on the counter sitting there drinking now.
Right.
And
I'm looking for your dark liquor.
Yeah. Not for me, for the babies. What kind of babysitter do you think I am?
Right.
I actually love Agnes. I think she's hilarious.
I honestly like Catherine Hahn in anything she does. She's fantastic. She was the voice of Dr. Octopus in the Spider-Man part.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse.
So, anyway, so they go and look and they're not there, and then you hear mommy, daddy, and they turn around and there's these two 5-year-olds standing there.
Yeah, aged up. And so now you're like, holy shit. And once again,
Agnes is right there too.
Yeah.
And doesn't bat an eye. Kids, you can't control them.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you try.
I think this was called A Very Special Episode.
Yes.
That was the name of this episode. So now we're seeing that kind of stuff happening. Now we're also going back and forth. But at this point now, we're going back and forth between the sitcom and the real world. And this episode, I think, was the longest one.
Too. It was 44 minutes and some odd seconds.
Right. So, I mean, we're still looking at a lot of credits. I mean, there's still like
10 minutes of credits. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But it was still the longest episode we had so far. And so now we're going back and forth. We're learning some more stuff. We're seeing that they're trying to communicate. They're trying to get in there. They're figuring out how, I mean, is Wanda creating these things? Is she creating the environment?
Well, they actually start off doing the scan, the MRI on Monica, and
it looks weird.
And that's the thing; it looks weird. It there's nothing there. It's just a white screen.
Didn't work. And I think that is evidence that she is that she got powers.
I think so too, and yes. I think we're gonna see her become Photon before by the end of this.
I think so too.
But they kind of play it off. They're like, we need to do it again, and Jimmy and Darcy are both like, no, we got to go. You know, here's some clothes, pants are required, and she's like, well, what about our blood? And the lady's like, no, I need to get that again too. And then she's like, oh no, I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah, see, that's exactly it. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Monica Rambeau's powers, when she was the first female Captain Marvel in the 80s, she could transform herself into any form of energy from the electromagnetic spectrum. So she could fly, she could shoot laser blasts, she could become gamma radiation, she could become cosmic radiation, she could be light, she could be electricity, she could be forms of waves of magnetism. She was actually extremely powerful. And later on, she eventually took on several different names. She was Photon at one point, she was Pulsar, I think. She was a couple of different things. But she was actually a really strong, really awesome character, and had a great costume. She was really, really cool. So I think we're going to see, yes, her powers are going to develop from out of this situation. And it is probably just, I don't know if it's a mutation or it's her exposure to Wanda's abilities or whatever, but we're going to see some cool stuff. And so there's a big meeting of all these guys together, and the sword guys, and and all these people that are investigating the hex, as they're calling it. Darcy is calling it. Yes, you called it the hex.
You called it a hex.
And I thought that was really cool because they called it that because it is in the shape of a hexagon. Mm-hmm. The area that is cordoned off in the city, and it was really cool because that's what. In the comics, that's what she always called her power signature. Yep. And her hex bolts or hex balls.
It was her hex magic.
Her hex magic, right. So that was really fucking cool. But we're seeing where the head of sword showed off that at one point, they said 9 days ago, that Wanda had gotten into a secure sword or shield facility or whatever it was and stolen the Vision's body,
which was actually a deleted scene.
Correct.
It was a deleted post-credit scene from Endgame.
Yes, it was. So they used it here instead, and she went in and took him now. And he had also stated, and he goes, now this is against the Vision's DNR or living will.
Living will, yep.
And said that he never wanted, and against the Sokovia Accords, that he never wanted to be used as a weapon.
Now what's funny is even before that, he calls Jimmy Woo up to basically give his overview on Wanda. And he starts going, well, Maximoff can do this. He's like, whoa. Doesn't she have like one of those like colorful code names?
And they're like, no.
And he's like, no, nothing, no special. No.
She's just Wanda.
And it's like that whole thing where they're waiting for someone to call her the Scarlet Witch.
Right, exactly. Killed me, but it made me realize, I'm like, that's right. They never gave her a code name, or her brother. They never called him Quicksilver. They just it was Pietro and Wanda. They were the twins, and he even talked about it. He goes, no, she almost beat Thanos herself,
Well, that's later on when Wu. That's the thing. The head of sword is painting Wanda as a villain,
mm-hmm.
and a psychopath and all this, and Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy are the only ones who are defending her, and they're like,
Right.
no, this isn't it. And even Monica said, I think she's being manipulated.
Right. Right, exactly. And she even confronts her about it later on, but they're going to hang ourselves there. So yeah, they're defending her, trying to defend her, and he kind of brushes Jimmy off. Okay, thanks, Jimmy.
And there's also one spot where Jimmy's like, he comes over to Darcy after he brushes him off like that, and he's like, I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but and Darcy's like, no, I will. He's and she starts to say dick. You hear he's a dick, and then they flash back to the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the head of S.W.O.R.D. going terrorists.
Exactly. So and then she's kind of like and they're like, no, there's no domestic threat here. I mean, she's not, and they're like, look, she's holding an entire town hostage.
Yeah, thousands of people are hostage, and it could be thousands more if she hadn't contained it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so then we go back. I think at this point, I mean, I'm a little hazy on the timeline here, but then they go and they do figure out at one point that what they would need. They start talking about what they would need to create some kind of way to get into.
Yeah, that's later because we go back into the show.
Okay, they go back into the show,
and the kids have done that whole trope of they found a dog.
They found a dog, yep.
And they're trying to convince mom and dad to let them keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do, and then of course Agnes shows up with a dog with a doghouse.
Happens to show up with a doghouse, right?
Because her window told her that they got a dog.
Yeah. And they named him Sparky too, which is what in the comic book when the Vision decided to try and create his own family.
Yep.
He created a dog for his family, his daughter, his wife, and I think he has a son too. The son and the wife ended up malfunctioning really dramatically, but the daughter became Vivian Vision, and she was working with the champions and stuff. Became a hero on her own.
The wife killed Grim Reaper, and which we had talked about before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In the second episode, when he phases through the floor, you can see Grim Reaper's mask and bones.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so, and he created a dog, and they named him Sparky. So it's like that was pretty funny. But yeah, and then they're like, the Vision comes in, and he's like, I don't know if they're old enough, and then of course she says. Maybe it should be, and at that point we're seeing the kind of the discussion break down because Wanda uses her powers pretty much right in front of Agnes, and she's like, yeah, she didn't notice. I'm tired of hiding.
Yeah, and Vision's like, no, we've always been of one mind with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now all of a sudden she's changing her mind, and then they decide, well, until you're 10, you're not old enough, and then the kids look at each other, and they say. And they just age up to 10 years old. And, and of course, Agnes doesn't react.
She's right there, sees it happen.
Just whatever, just right along for the ride. And so then, of course, well, it looks like they've got a dog. And so we're starting to see the Vision. I mean, we had started to see it a little bit in the previous episode, but we're really seeing it now at this point where he is really starting to question reality.
Yeah, because he goes to work then.
He goes over to work, right.
And they have computers now because it's the 80s. And
right.
And is it Norm? Is that his name?
I think so, Norm. Something like that.
Yeah.
And he's trying to explain email to the guy. And he's trying to, and the guy's making all these dumb kind of typical jokes.
It's like you talk their language.
Yeah. Or, hey, if I'm going to send an email, where do I put the stamp? After the guy has this breakdown, because the Vision is able to shake Wanda's control over this guy.
Well, they get an email from S.W.O.R.D.
Right. And they all read it all in the same tone.
Yeah, in a very creepy unison.
Yeah. Because it was like, they go, let's check out the internet. And they, they sign on, and it's those
electronic mail.
Electronic mail, and you hear that
the modem sound.
That modem sound and stuff. And that's the thing. I mean, from what I understand, there was an internet in the mid 80s. It was just like, it wasn't something we all could access. It was something that was more or less used like for colleges to talk to each other and research labs to talk to each other and stuff like that.
It was developed by the DOD.
Yeah. So so you're seeing what essentially was the very base bones beginning of the internet from their little thing. And then, and then they all get this, email from the DOD or whatever, or from Sword.
And Norm looks at me and says, "What you gonna write back, Viz? You're the Office funny guy."
Right. But so then he wakens up, or he awakens.
Yeah, Vision shuts the computer down by touching it.
Yeah.
And then walks up to Norm and puts his fingers on his temples and zaps him. Right. And Norm panics. He's like, "What? How long's it been? What day is it? Where's my phone? I gotta call my sister."
Right, exactly. Somebody's got to take care of my dad, and
yeah,
you've got to stop her. You've got to stop her,
and he zaps him back.
Right, and that's when he makes the joke about putting a stamp on it. So then at that point too, we've also dealing with the kids that are having that kind of heart to heart with mom, saying, is dad mad at us, and or whatever, and she's like, no, and
he had to go to work. It's Saturday. She's like, no, it's not. This morning it was Saturday.
Yeah.
So you can see things starting to unravel.
Things are unraveling, right? And so then we figure out, we go back into the real world, and they figure out that the clothes that Monica was wearing when she was Geraldine were bulletproof, because she had been wearing a bulletproof vest, and obviously what had happened is Wanda had taken the molecules of what she was wearing and rearranged them to create what their reality is. And so they were trying to figure out right before they figured that out, what kind of vehicle could they create to make something that wouldn't change.
This is actually a huge thing,
right? And she says something to the effect of, I know, an astrophysicist.
Well, she says she needs this basically a mobile bunker made out of all these different things. And she's like, I know an astrophysicist who might be up for that project. And she starts texting.
People are starting to create there's a conversation basically just saying who the fuck could she be talking about?
And the big speculation is Reed Richards.
Reed Richards, exactly. There was that. There was also the speculation that it could be the Blue Marvel, who's Adam Brashear, who's a character that's been introduced of recent, and that Monica ends up working with. And actually, in the comics, I believe she was having a romance with. And so there's a bunch of different, they're this could be the gateway into getting Reed Richards in, and this could be the gateway to getting some of these other characters in. But then they quickly move away from that.
Well, and then they say something about, so Wanda got her powers from the Mind Stone. So that's where they have the whole conversation about Thanos, and how Wanda and Monica says that she could have taken out Thanos if he hadn't initiated a blitz on her.
Yeah, and then she also said something to the effect until Captain Marvel showed up.
Well, no, and then Jimmy says, and she was the only one that could. And Jimmy says, I don't know, Captain Marvel came pretty close. And Monica just walked over to the board, and she's like, we're not talking about her.
Yes. Oh my God. I was like, oh, somebody's got some venom there. There's
speculation that her mom's illness was caused by close proximity to Captain Marvel. That's why there's that animosity, that she blames Captain Marvel for her mom's death.
Well, I think that's unlikely, but okay.
There was definitely a falling out.
Oh, it's definitely a falling out for sure. So anyway, I think just probably the fact that Captain Marvel went away for a long time, and she was a little girl, and maybe there's some abandonment issues.
Could be, yeah.
So anyway, then they figure out, because they're saying look, that vehicle might be able to go in there, but there's no saying that you won't change when you going through it. So, and that's when they were
she's like, what if something doesn't have to change? Right.
So then they go and they get technology from the 80s. They get a probe, basically a drone that would have been used in the 80s to go through, and so it wasn't affected by the change. And they were able to finally communicate with Wanda through that thing.
Yeah, Wanda kept it off the screen though, and that was one of the things Darcy noted. She's cutting it out of the shot.
Right. It's it's almost like she's the director.
She still decides what gets on the screen.
Right. She's the director. She may be. I think. See, that's the thing. I think Wanda's the director, but I don't think she's the producer.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think Wanda's the producer.
Right.
Someone else is pumping in the money, aka power.
The power, right? Exactly. For her to be able to maintain all of this, or at the very least, to keep it to just I still think there's something. Well, I mean, I do also like the fact that it's establishing that this is a wounded person. This is a person with post-traumatic stress disorder, and that this is how, honestly, somebody
huge grief issues.
Yeah, huge grief issues. Somebody that with superpowers would potentially she's broken down and had a breakdown.
Yep, she's stuck in denial.
Yeah, and how she's dealing with it, and once again, I still think that this is coming from somewhere else first, but But yeah,
so they do that, and Monica's trying to talk to her.
Right.
And her eyes start glowing.
Yes.
Wanda's eyes start glowing. And she loses control because you see the director behind her nod over to the side, and all of a sudden
Monica always loses some control. Governmental douchebag that's going to do
Monica
that.
Loses control. She's like, I don't have control. And he's like, take the shot. And she's like, what? He's like, take the shot. And all of a sudden everything goes fuzzy.
Yeah. Like a missile.
Yeah.
Like a missile is going to stop somebody that almost took out.
Well, and Monica's like, the drone's not armed. And
yeah. Oh, yeah? So, and then you see, there's alarms and a klaxon, and you see her coming out, dragging this, this drone in pieces, saying, hey, is this yours?
She instantly, as soon as she comes out, she's in her Avengers outfit, and she's got her Sokovian accent back.
Correct. And they've said the reason why she doesn't have a Sokovian accent is because the show that she's creating is American.
Yep.
So, so she walks out, and she basically tells them all.
She throws it at him and says, this yours?
Yeah, and says, like, stay out of my home.
Yep.
And that's when Monica comes walking up. She's like, I know that deep down, you know that this is wrong. This is why you let me help you.
Get off my set.
Yeah. And that's funny. For someone in the FBI. Yeah. See, that's the other thing too. I want to know who the fuck.
We'll get to that.
He hid there.
We're gonna get to that because I have speculation on that. So
okay.
Let's get through the episode, and then we'll talk about that.
All right. So, yeah, CD, I want to know who the hidden person in town is too. Go ahead.
No. So anyway, the other thing is that there's like a dozen guys out there with laser sights pointed on her chest,
right?
And she's not phased at all.
Oh no!
And all of a sudden, and she sees when Monica comes up, she's like, "You're still here," and she starts gathering power into her hand, right. and she talks to her, and she's like, just, leave me alone. I have everything I need. And she like does this, and you see all the guys flash red around their heads, and she just goes, and you watch all their guns train on the director.
Yeah, I was like, whoa! And he's all like, whoa! Stand down.
And she goes back, and before she goes in, she supercharges the force field.
Yeah, it's all like and now it's all like kind of fading red and kind of and everything like that. Yeah. So, and then of course we also see, it goes. This is at that point. Then we go in, and the kids are looking for the dog. Now the dog's missing, and they have to, and they figure out that the dog had eaten some of the leaves from.
Yeah. They're walking down the street, and Agnes, who is not right next door.
No.
Is holding this bundle in her arms, and you see the bushes shaking, and then she comes up with this bundle, and she's like, I didn't want to get you until I had him wrapped up.
Right. And so the dog poisoned himself. And so the little boys are like, and she looks at them, they look at each other, and it's interesting because they looked at each other like twins do.
Yeah.
Sometimes, where they can almost have this kind of silent language between themselves. And she's like, whoa, don't age yourself up. Do not age yourself past this. because then they were like complaining because they're like, it hurts too much. And she was explaining to them that, this is what part of being human is, what part of, the experience is. And they're like, but Mom, you could fix anything, bring him back.
Yeah.
And that's when Agnes looks at her and says, you can do that. And it's another one of those breaks in her little scripted reality. It's like, she's like, where we're starting once again.
No, there are certain things you can't do.
Right. And you're seeing, and so we're seeing parts of it where this is starting to break down. And then Vision comes home. And the two of them start to have this conversation about the dog and about the crazy things that are happening and the things that
he's questioning her.
He's questioning her. He's like, I can't remember what happened, what my life was before this.
Well, that was actually later because they have this argument in the kitchen, and she's like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. And the credits roll, and he's like, no,
right. I thought that was really fucking cool.
She tried rolling credits on him.
Yeah,
and he's like, nope.
Yeah,
and he follows her in the living room, and the credits stop. And I saw a thing that actually said, props to them. Every person that was listed in that credits is somebody that worked on that show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So then they get into the living room, and he really lays into her. He's like, there's something going on here. Why are there no children in town?
Yes.
And
I walk by the playground every day, and it's empty.
She's like, no, there are. He's like, no, there's not. What is going on? Yeah. I can't remember what, anything outside of here. And he gets pissed, and he like raises up off the ground, and he's like,
and she does the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're in opposite poses. They have the exact same stance.
Yeah. And then he's like, I'm scared. And he breaks down. He's like, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. And so,
and she lowers down and says, you're my husband.
Yeah. And so, everybody start to calm down, and she's like, you think I'm controlling everything here? I'm telling people to go to work and go to their dentist appointments and whatever. Yeah. I mean,
at this point, she's sitting on the couch and
right. I think that basically they all know they're trapped there, and they all know they have to do things, and
then it's all for Wanda.
Yeah, and I think that unless they'll probably have their own, like minds, unless they have to work specifically with Wanda and Vision, unless they're specifically
right. And then Vision comes over and sits down with her, and they're starting to have a more calm talk, but it's still a very uncomfortable talk for Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
And
because he still doesn't trust her,
right? And all of a sudden, ding dong,
right?
And he just looks at her like, and she's like,
I didn't do that.
I didn't do that. I know I know you think I did that. I didn't do that. And ding dong, it rings again, and she gets up to go answer it. He comes around, and she opens the door, and she's got this look of shock on her face.
Right. So, which is why this is one of the reasons why I think that this is not entirely under her control. I think that something
this was unexpected.
Is controlling her. Right. And when the door opens, and holy shit, it's Quicksilver.
Well, that's the thing. They show him from behind at first, right? And you just see the hair, and then they go to the front, and it's not Pietro from the MCU.
It's Pietro from the Marvel, or from the mutants, from the X-Men,
from the universe. Sony, or from the 20th
Fox.
So, and then we cut to outside, and we see Darcy watching this, and she's like, "Did she recast Pietro?"
Right, exactly. And I'm just mind blown.
So she even knows that it's not the right one.
Right, exactly. So now we actually have the first official crossover between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Fox Marvel movies that were established, the X-Men movies. We have the first coming together of these two things. People have been speculating how they're going to bring the mutants into the MCU for a long time, and this could be it. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that's going to be a lot more complicated than this. I don't think this is going to be a no more mutants or, yes to the mutants kind of thing like we had when in the comic books when Wanda created the House of M storyline and where she rewrote reality for a while. I think, but I think that this is the beginning of seeing that, and I thought that was a really, really cool thing. It was because, you know, it's one thing for Wanda to reanimate the Vision's synthoid body. It's another thing for her to bring an entire person back from the dead.
Well, and it's not, though. That's the thing. She didn't bring her brother back from the dead.
Right, exactly.
This is somebody from another universe.
Right, exactly.
And he comes in and says, you know, can a brother give his sister a huge squeeze or something like that? And then
right.
and then he looks at Vision, who's still in his Vision look.
Right.
And says, who's the popsicle?
Right. So we have this, you know, stereotypical 80s kind of cool guy kind of.
And he's kind of New Yorker type.
Yeah. Kind of cool guy character from Pietro. And like I said, I think his name's Evan Peters, who played him in the.
He said he's ecstatic to be able to play him in this.
Oh yeah, and in all honesty, the Quicksilver scenes in the X-Men movies were some of the best, some of the coolest parts of those movies when he's, you know, at super speed and everything else is moving super slow. Yeah, plucking bullets out of the air and moving fists,
moving guns,
you know, and guns, and yeah. So I'm really excited to see what they're going with this.
And that's when the actual credits start.
And that's when the credits roll in, because mouths agape, eyes wide, and
so
the interesting thing too, the trailer that I saw for the next episode, or not trailer but some footage, because the next episode is going to be very much a Halloween kind of thing, but
where they go into their actual
right, and it's a very it's a very 90s, like late 90s kind of sitcom where. Or show where she's talking to the camera.
Okay.
So we're going to see Wanda more so talking to the camera, kind of like they did in Modern Family, where they would talk to the camera, like it was, you know.
Well, see, I haven't seen Modern Family yet. It's finally on Hulu, and I can watch it. But it's on my list. But anyway, so to get back to the speculations, so there's a lot of speculation that Dottie's actually the one that's manipulating everything.
Yes,
that she's the actual whoever the villain is. That it's Dottie. Or
The Office, correct, CB.
Yeah. So with Dottie, it's she's not on the board.
That's true.
Agnes has a picture on the board, but she doesn't have an ID.
Right.
Dottie isn't even on the board as someone that they've identified.
Correct.
The other person and this is what the speculation is that the person who's the missing person is Ralph. Agnes's husband.
Oh yeah?
That he's the missing person. That's why he's never showing up. Because he's actually in witness protection. He's hidden.
Okay.
And the speculation is that that's Simon Williams.
Right. I have heard that as well.
And part of that is because if you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff, there are pictures of Wonder Man on the wall behind the concept artists. Mm-hmm. And why would he be on there when they're doing work on WandaVision if he's not going to be in WandaVision?
I think it makes entirely good sense to.
My thing is I think they're going to reverse what happened in the comics. Instead of Simon Williams being the base of Vision's intellect, I think Vision is going to wind up. It's going to be one of those things where Simon Williams is going to show up. He may wind up getting killed or something like that, and to save him, the Vision's intellect actually goes into him, and that he becomes the Vision.
Well, that's not a bad theory at all. That's not a bad theory at all. So we'll see.
And then we're gonna get Wonder Man into the next phase of the Avengers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We never see Ralph. You're right. Yeah, she's always talks about him.
Always talks about him, but you never see him.
And it's funny because that was one of those tropes from from sitcoms where the neighbor lady would have a husband. She always that always drove her crazy that you never see, and stuff like that. So wow, I didn't think about that, but that's a really good thing. Well.
We're over 2 hours now.
We're over 2 hours. We need to get going. Guys, thanks for joining us. If you guys have any speculations yourself, if you want to, we're always happy to hear people, what people think, and whether you agree with us, whether you disagree with us. Put it on the Facebook page. Let us know, talk to us about it. We love hearing from the viewers, and and hell, jump in on the show and jump in on the chat and tell us what you think. I mean, CD has been really good about this, and I know we had a couple other people that were watching. Thanks for watching. And if you guys, please feel free to comment on the chat sometime.
And if you're following, great. If you're not, please follow.
Yeah, give us a follow.
Please give us a follow.
Because we need you. We need follows. But guys, you can find us in all the places you can find quality podcasting. Guys, we are on the iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, radio.com. And of course, you can stream and download all of our episodes at nerdswithalcoholshow.com. Every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, we do our show here on Twitch. And then, of course, a couple of days later, we'll put it up on our YouTube page. Both of those are Drinking Nerds.
Yep. And you can follow us on most of the social medias. We are on Facebook, Nerds with Alcohol Show, Twitter, at Drinking Nerds, Instagram, Drinking Nerds. And then you can also follow or watch us this Friday. We will be doing our D&D show, Tavern Nights, 7 o'clock p.m. Great time, great group. I'm running the game as a DM. Russ is playing a paladin, believe it or not. So come on out, hang out with us then. It'll be a good time.
Yes, sir. Friday night, 7 o'clock.
Eastern.
Tavern Nights, man.
Yep.
Come on in.
So, all right. Well, I think we should probably wrap things up. I could keep talking about this all night long, but
we could.
So, all right. Well, I think on that note, until next time. Sláinte.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, I had a couple of really good glasses there.
That was a good one there.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.